如何学英语还有个很好的地方，那就是博物馆。你知道 National Gallery， 我从 YouTube 上发现做的一流的这个网站太棒了。我主要是爱学英文呐，我从那个 YouTube 看到，哇塞，他这个网站做的真好，每一幅解读都解读的一流，所以这个地方也是学英文的好地方。而且那些gallery， 你如果注册他的会员啊，交他的年费，他每一个礼拜，比如说他有一些活动啊，请画家来现场演讲啊，请专业人士来讲话，他有一个小会议厅，哎，你可以去听，也很好，对英文特别有帮助。然后呢，你喜欢艺术的人吧，你登录这个他的网站哈，听他每一幅的解读。其实只要你有兴趣的事情，英文的词语它进入你的耳朵，你很容易理解的。你并不说一定要100%知道它是什么意思，但是在这个听的过程中，你的英文也提升，而且你还能满足你的好奇心。哎，这幅画的历史，这幅画的整个那个创作灵感。非常棒，所以这个也是特别棒的一个 idea。我等一下那个放几段给大家看，确实很好啊，这是我的学习英文的好办法。
When the Arnolfini portrait went on public display, first at the British Institution in 1841, and then at the National Gallery before a broader audience in 1843, it immediately began to command attention. The couple in this interior, what was their relationship? Were they greeting the spectator, or was it a marriage scene? And given the Victorian mindset and this emphasis on sexual morality, some people thought the woman might be pregnant and this hasty ceremony had taken place, so the child would be legitimate when it was born.
But we know from other 15th century representations that it was quite normal for women to hold these bulky gowns up in exactly this way.
Then in the 1860s, with new research, it was argued that actually it was a representation of this merchant from Lucca, Giovanni Arnolfini, and his wife.
So in the room they're standing in, we can see on the right-hand side a bed with red curtains. It was quite normal to have beds in your living room. They were expensive items and you might want to show them off. On the left-hand side, we can see that there's an open window. You can just see a tiny little bit of a cherry tree, and on the windowsill and below there are some oranges just catching the light, and oranges would have been very expensive items at this time in 15th century Bruges, and you would be showing off in a painting that you were rich enough to have oranges at this period in Northern Europe.
The mirrors are placed like an eye in the centre of the composition, which really adds to the mystery and the strangeness. Who are the two people seen entering the room? The mirror has the effect of compressing the space but expanding it at the same time and bringing the world outside the picture frame into the heart of the composition.
Above the mirror, as though written on the wall, is this extraordinary inscription in very elaborate writing, and it's in Latin, but it says, Jan van Eyck has been here, 1434, the date of the painting. So it's both a signature and perhaps an indication not just that Jan van Eyck painted every inch of this picture, but that he's shown here just below, coming into the room.
This adds a narrative dimension. Who are these strangers? Why are they here? Is it an important occasion? Is there some spiritual or religious significance? So it's a painting which poses more questions than it can actually address or answer.
Van Eyck shows off the way in which he can render different contrasting textures brilliantly. So we see the light glancing off the brass chandelier and off the glass beads of the rosary hanging below.
The carpet, the hairs on the dog, the wooden heels of the patterns, the glass panes in the window.
And we can almost feel the texture of the fur lining the robes of the man on the left and his wife on the right.
You can almost feel you can touch every single surface. So it allows a wonderful sensory appreciation of the painting and the environment he's conjuring up for this incredible technique.
Engagement, and also the curator here, who's lucky enough to have Holbein's masterpiece under her care. So I'm going to spend the next 30 minutes or so talking about this very extraordinary painting, but I don't think I'm going to be able to provide all of the answers, and of course I'll be very happy to try to answer any questions that you may have afterwards. So this is a painting that the National Gallery acquired back in 1890. It looked a bit different then. The background, that green curtain, had been painted out. It was very dark. Other bits were not in such clear condition as they are now, and nobody knew who the two people here were. The painting had been in England for most of the 19th century, and in 1890 it was in the collection of the Earls of Radnor at Longford Castle. And they still own the wonderful
This is
portrait
part of a
Erasmus.
series of lunchtime talks on selected paintings in the gallery, and they happen every Wednesday. You can find the program online or by going to the information desk. My colleagues will be talking about a wide variety of paintings over the next several weeks. This is the second of 6. I am talking about this picture, the portrait of Julius II by Raphael. It was part of the foundational collection of the National Gallery, the first Raphael to enter the collection. It belonged to Julius Angerstein, who was a banker and whose collection became the foundation of the National Gallery, along with the Beaumont collection. But that's a different story. I want to concentrate more on what we see and the context in which this painting was made originally. What we see here is a pope, and I think he is recognizable as a pope because we know what popes wear, but also because this picture has basically set the standard for papal portraiture ever since. This is one of the quintessential portraits of the European tradition, in part because it does this. It's a portrait of power, but it's also a portrait of strong personal resonance. And we recognize it in part because it's famous in itself, but also through the many derivations and other like portraits inspired by it, most famously by Velázquez, by Titian, but also by Raphael's contemporaries, Sebastiano del Piombo,